Chicago.
AM 560, The Answer.
Back on the show, all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Jim White, who is the chairman and CEO of Post Harvest Technologies and Growers Ice Company, along with many, many other titles and a lot of international recognition for his incredible work across the business community throughout his career. He's bought, expanded, and sold 23 companies in 44 countries, and has also acquired failing businesses to revive and develop them into profitable enterprises using his business turnaround strategy. He's written a new book, Opportunity Investing. Jim, welcome to the program.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It is so great to have you. So right now, the COVID-19 health crisis, it's impacting everyone. I wish we could talk about other things on the program. And indeed, in this conversation, we'll talk not only about the current situation, but also talk about the business community in general. But right now, the stark reality facing the workforce in communities, people who live paycheck to paycheck, is grim. So the question is, how do you bring that investment back? That's something you know a thing or two about. Jim, can you tell us a little bit about your experience? Because your bio is way too long for me to read.
As I often share with people and ask that question, I said, when I don't get old, I just become more seasoned. So at the 71-year-old season, I go in decades. So my career started with Ingersoll Rand Company back in the 70s after I got out of the Army. I was an Army Ranger and did 2 tours of Vietnam, and got out of the Army and went to, well, actually surprised when I got accepted to Georgia Tech. So I have a civil engineering degree, and then moved into the construction and mining group for Ingersoll Rand. And then went in an international group, and for a country boy from rural South Carolina, figured out there's a good way to make money, and that was taking the most risky assignments and actually delivering on those risks and calculated risks. So I was in Saudi Arabia for 3 years. I became the Middle Eastern manager for Ingersoll Rand. Got promoted to vice president, and like I say, it's a long story, so I'll shorten it up. And moved to Woodcliff Lakes, New Jersey, and woke up one day and I was absolutely miserable. And I had this beautiful office, all the art that you could buy, and I was just, I felt like a fish out of water. And so I went to the chairman of the board and said, I'd like to entertain the idea of acquiring one of our divisions. As I often share with people, if you go to your employer and make such a declaration and it fails, you better have your resume current and go find another job. So 1980, I started my first firm, and I was in Washington, D.C., and that was project financing. Working with World Bank, Ex-Im Bank, and understanding how to get project financing. And through contacts that I developed in Ingersoll Rand, picked up some contracts. The first one's in Lagos, Nigeria, believe it or not, doing a infrastructure project. And that one went well. Then I went to the next one, and I sold my first company to a company called Blunt Construction Company in Montgomery, Alabama, and became CEO of Blunt World Trade and all the international trading activities, and lived out a contract and started buying failing companies around the world. And as I said, I bought 23. What was the magic sauce? The magic sauce was to people. Go in and find those hidden waste, and first and foremost, give people a reason for showing up to work every day other than just having a job. Get them excited behind a vision, get them excited about a vision and the mission. So we started buying and selling, and sold the last one to Borg Warner in 1991, and started doing consulting, speaking, writing books, and doing all types of engagements. So
well, you're sharing a lot of interesting secrets, and secrets no longer, because you've taken the lessons learned and you're sharing it with others, which is impressive. So again, your new book, Opportunity Investing: How to Revitalize Urban and Rural Communities with Opportunity Funds, explores how qualified opportunity funds, QOFs, can effectively change the lives of millions of people in those zones across the nation. So you have become an expert in a little known thing called Subchapter Z. Can you explain for us lay people what that is?
Yeah, Subchapter Z is a little carve out in December 2017 of the Jobs Act, and basically what it provides for tax incentives from capital gains from investors. And the intent was to get this private capital. There's $6.7 trillion at that time of unrealized capital gains in the market. So the Treasury and the IRS, in conjunction with the state governors, started looking at the census tract and started identifying these poverty areas, not only in urban but rural communities, and certified mid-2018, certified 8,800 of these tracts. So the incentive is for an investor to invest in a fund, and the fund then has a certain period of time to invest in these QOZs, and these QOZs are designed to create jobs, bring manufacturing back, build infrastructure, revitalize buildings, and it just goes on and on and on. As to the opportunities are huge, especially in the current environment that we're in. And
sure. And Jim, I'm going to squeeze in a very quick commercial break, but we're talking about 8,000 distressed areas around the country that are eligible for this Subchapter Z of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Lots of opportunities. We're going to get a little bit deeper into this and talk about the opportunity. Again, the secrets that Dr. Jim White, bestselling author, speaker, thought leader, and expert, the field of opportunity zones. Our conversation continues in just a moment.
Imagine if you're AM 560, The Answer.
Back in my conversation with Dr. Jim White, again, a best-selling author of a new book, Opportunity Investing, How to Revitalize Urban and Rural Communities with Opportunity Funds. We were just demystifying Subchapter Z of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which it talks about the opportunities that are available in over 8,000, almost 9,000 distressed areas around the country that are struggling. But that is especially relevant today in the era that we're in. Lots of folks struggling. Jim, you've worked with many companies, and you've maximized the opportunities that are available. What was the purpose of the Opportunity Zones initiatives? And what are areas that QOFs can invest in to make a difference in distressed communities?
The purpose was to help 35 million people, which currently reside in these 8,800 zones, to get out of the poverty, increase the medium poverty level. And QOF is referred to, a fund is designed with an incentive to invest in a community, and it could be a pizza shop, it could be a car dealership, it could be a piece of real estate that you're looking about. You could go into these zones and create a new business, innovation centers, and this goes on and on and on. And what makes it so attractive? The rules say if you have capital gains and you invest those capital gains prior to 12/31/2021, you can reduce your capital gains by 10%. And you don't have to pay taxes owed to the federal government until April 2027. And the magic sauce, you keep the investment in the fund for 10 years. All the appreciation from the fund is tax-free.
So Jim, it sounds like a true win-win when you're talking about the ability to obviously those tax benefits, but also the ability, you're talking about millions of people in these qualified opportunity zones. That's a lot of opportunity for impact. So surely our listeners want to understand a little bit more about how they can identify, the areas. How do you identify both the qualified opportunity funds, the QOFs, as well as how do you identify those zones, the QOZs across the nation? You can identify the QOZs by going to our website, phtopportunityfund.com. We have created a map. You can go to the resources section, type in your address,
and you can determine if you are in a zone. That's step one. Step two, you got to decide what you want to do. You want to start a business, you want to redevelop your real estate. And then you can also, we have a resource section where you can then identify a specific fund that would be interested in that asset class.
Very, very interesting. And I know you share a lot of information about your experiences, which you practice what you preach. You've actually been involved in one of these opportunities out in California, I believe. So you share a lot more information. I'd like to ask Jim if you can share the website one more time, but also tell us where we can find your book as well.
You can find the book at authorjimwhite.com. You can learn more about the fund and the zones at phtopportunityfund.com. So we've got a lot of resources there, and that's one of the things that's missing is more information. And thank you for spread that information to your wonderful listeners and viewers.
Absolutely. You know, we love to profile win-win opportunities. This would be a good opportunity in any time, but in particular in a time like this, a pandemic, when so many people are struggling. Qualified opportunity zones, qualified opportunity funds. You've demystified it. Dr. Jim White, thanks so much for joining me on the air.
My pleasure. It's been my pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We are the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. You can always download podcasts from the programs. 6+ years of shows on my website, shalomklein.com. Follow me on Twitter at shalomklein. To success. Let's get down to business. We'll talk to you next Sunday right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Did you miss the open?